Welcome to Relics Radio, your favorite weekly podcast dedicated to the metal detecting and treasure hunting community. Here are your hosts, Ken from Adventures in Dirt and Tony from 5280 Adventures.
Hey everyone, Thursday night. Welcome to another Relics Radio. That's right. You know what's funny is like I went to say that and my mind about blanked because I've been talking so much about Rush to the Rockies, our event coming up here in Colorado, that I almost said, hey, welcome to another Rush to the Rockies. But no, Relics Radio Thursday night. Actually, you know what? It's not even a Thursday night, is it? That's a switch. It's Wednesday night. Why are we doing this on Wednesday night? I'll tell you what. Let me bring my guest in. You guys know him. They know him or not, but some people call him Mr. 5280 Adventures. Tony, why are we doing this on a Wednesday night, man? What are we doing?
I know, Wednesday night, totally different. We just decided to change it. We're going to do Wednesday nights now, I think, moving forward instead of Thursdays. It's just going to work out better for our schedule. Hopefully everybody out there listening, it works with your schedule too. And if not, if you can't watch it live, watch us on the replay. But I think we're just going to move forward with Wednesdays, a little bit different.
Probably,
so
like, I think, next couple of weeks, because of my sort of work schedule, Wednesdays would work better for me. And so, yeah, Tony and I were talking. We're just like, yeah, maybe we should start doing it on Wednesdays.
Just move it.
That way I could.
We'll see what the response is. We might be a little bit lower tonight just because of something different. In terms of live people, but hey, I mean, look, it works for David Rose. So let's go ahead and we'll just make it final now. It's too many conflicts on Thursday. So
David just made the decision. So if you guys have a problem with it, I'll give you David Rose's phone number, his home personal number. You can call him, call his wife, and say, look, man, we wanted it on Thursdays, and then you had to go and spoil it for us.
That's right.
How are you, man? How are things?
Oh, busy as heck. You and I are, I know that you're busy, but we're on the Rush to the Rockies committee. So like last night it was like a 2-hour meeting. My wife was ready to kill me. 2 hours.
Having those like once a week with so many people involved. More than last year for sure.
Yeah, no, but we're lots of plans, lots of decisions being made for Rush to the Rockies coming up. And if you guys are listening, we're gonna be able to kind of release more information as we go forward. So at least right now we can tell you what the date is. Right?
That's true.
We can at least disclose that much.
Yeah, and kind of the general location.
Yeah.
Right. Well, go ahead, release some of it. Let's talk about Rush to the Rockies 2025. We're calling it Rendezvous 2025. Tony did a great job of kind of creating this little logo, this little guy. Every year at Rush to the Rockies, when we're doing these things, it's so silly. I mean, no one really cares probably, but we create this little dude, this little guy, this little sort of mascot. And Tony, man, did a great job on that thing. You got that thing where you could throw it up real quick? I know we got to get to our guest, but if you could throw that up.
No, I don't. We'll see. We'll see it later. Don't worry about that.
Oh, come on. Don't
worry about that. No. So May 31st, which is a Friday, all the way through June 1st, which is Sunday. So we're going to have it out in a little different place this year. I know last year, kind of some of the feedback was, man, the place is gorgeous. It's beautiful. It's on the side of this mountain, but I'm sucking air. I can't breathe here. So we got moved out to beautiful Kiowa, Colorado this year.
Yeah, definitely back on the flatlands for sure. So no more 8,000 feet, 40% grade, none of that.
I think we're only about 6,100 feet out in Kiowa. So a little bit lower elevation, but it's going to be really good. Yeah. Some of the stuff coming together and ideas and stuff. So if you guys need to, if you're going to join us, we're going to get out some information. We'll get you the links and the signups and the cost and the events. And as we're putting it all together, we'll get it out there to you guys so you can make some decisions. But come out and join us. Yep. We'd love to have everybody out there out in Kiowa, and we're going to have a good weekend.
Yeah, it should be a lot of fun. Questions come up during these committee meetings, and Tony and I like have the same canned answer. We're like, if it makes a better experience for the attendees, then my answer is yes. Any question you ask, just answer it with that. Should we do this? Is it going to make it for a better experience? Yes.
Is it better? Yes. Okay.
That's what we're going to do.
Put a check mark next to it then. Yeah. It's going to be a good time and just time consuming. So that's that's what we've been up to a lot. But other than that, not out digging. Obviously, it's we did have some nice weather this week. A little bit warming up, but the ground is hard as a rock.
It sure is. Yeah, we are not digging anytime soon. That's for sure. We get in the mountains of the pine needles, maybe, but once we go up there during 5 below and stuff.
But instead of digging, we just get to talk to other people about their experiences with detecting. I mean, there's lots of stuff going on. People down in Florida, I've seen lots of stuff. Dwight's out there digging down in Florida, and
our friend Jeff moved over there, and I'm like, hey, can you dig year round in North Carolina there? He's like, yes. I'm like, oh man.
You turd.
Yeah. him and Mike there in the chat. I'll tell you what, say hi to a couple of people in chat, and then let's get to Steve, because I really want to get to talking with him too.
Yeah. Nick from Thin Blue Diggers says hello.
What's up,
Nick? Let's see. Metal Detecting NC.
Hey, Mike, how you doing, buddy?
Yeah,
talk about North Carolina.
That's right. David Rose,
Full Metal Digger.
Yeah.
Good to see you, bud.
Ill Digger mentioned to him, said, hey, Relics Radio's tonight. So
yeah, on a Wednesday. That's crazy.
Hello, Mr. Scott Ellis.
Hello, Scott.
Yeah, thanks for coming on, Scott.
I saw
Lurker
Swansea
Troy
Searcher.
always in the back.
Troy coming. Yep. Swansea Searcher popped in.
Yeah,
excellent.
I saw that.
Welcome, everybody. Yep.
Yep.
Look at that. Shank is intact. You guys haven't checked out that Facebook page. You need to go over there and check that one out. The shank is intact. Metal Detecting Adventures. Excellent. Great YouTube channel too.
Yep. One more real quick here. Riddles Relics.
Relics.
I don't know if I should tell you, but I got a card going out to Riddles Relics.
Got a card going out to him?
Right. Sending Riddles Relics a card, so that should be leaving here pretty soon.
Oh,
just to give you a heads up. Yeah.
Top secret.
Yep. Shh. Don't
Nick Molnar, good to see you, buddy. Let's get to our guest, man. Let's bring him in. I've been wanting to talk to Steve all week.
I tell you, here we go. Well, guys, we're really blessed. Everybody knows you as Mudflap. I know you as Steve McGrew. You're famous. You're world renowned comedian. We're just going to talk about metal detecting tonight. But Steve, thanks for coming on with us. We appreciate it.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate you guys having me on, because I've watched and followed you guys for a while.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's interesting when you get to meet people that you've actually listened to, like on the radio, and you've kind of like been a fan and kind of, and especially radio voices, right? People, radio personalities. That's a weird world, right? Mudflap. It's like,
right.
You're known by millions of people. You can go walk the streets and stuff. When people meet you, they're like, oh, wow. But when people meet you like this, that are into something else that you're also into, that just kind of blows your mind,
Yeah. It's a lot of people always tell you, they'll meet you and go, well, you look different than I had you pictured in my mind.
Always.
Not long ago, I was here at the post office in Parker, and I was talking to somebody, and the lady behind me tapped me on the shoulder, and she goes, "Are you Mudflap?" And I go, "Yeah." I kind of weird because I haven't been on the air for a while, and she's like, "I recognized your voice." And like, that's,
oh, wow.
It's just weird,
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's before we get started, tell us a little bit who you are and what you do, how you got into metal detecting, kind of all that. Your whole life story. You got 37 seconds. Go.
37 seconds. Well, I grew up down in Texas, and I started metal detecting down there in Houston with my brother. But we really got our start digging bottles. That was our main thing. Was we got into bottles really early. I was probably 10 or 11. And we were digging bottles in Colorado and Texas. And it was back in the late, I guess it might have been late 60s, early 70s when we did the Leadville. We dug Leadville City Dump.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm a little familiar with that place.
Yeah, we've been there.
Have you been there?
We've been there and dug that as well. Absolutely.
Numerous times. And even more recent. So people are still digging.
Are they still digging out there?
Still digging out there.
Yeah.
Are they still finding the good stuff? Because it was pretty easy at that point to just be like, wow,
There's a guy that's out there that's actually got a backhoe that owns the place, and he's still finding the good stuff because he cordons off a section and he pulls all the dirt out, and he's still finding some good stuff.
Yeah.
But when we go out there with permission, when we go out there, we're just finding a lot of stuff just under the surface, a lot of buttons and not really bottles, but a lot of metal detecting relics. But it's still a cool, fun place to go if you get permission. You know what I mean?
Just recently, I was down in Houston, and they found a new section or it might have been a completely different dump of old Houston, like 1860s, 70s, 80s. And it's been putting out a bunch of good bottles.
Wow. Can you imagine that? That's, I mean, I'm always on the lookout for anything that talks about dumps.
Yes.
It's not sorry. City dumps. don't get any weird ideas. I'm not doing weird searches on the internet now. Come on.
We're not talking about digging privies.
We're filling them. So you guys were talking about Tom Asham when I kind of came in backstage tonight. And it's so fun watching his stuff, right? Especially, Steve, if you're a fan of bottle digging, because he gets these opportunities to go down and find pristine old stuff, these old privy pits that no one has dug. And that's about, these public spots. You've been digging them since the 60s, Steve. You know what I mean? So,
I'm looking at places that were like, okay, like you said, this was a dump or this was a house. And we know because somebody's already been finding pieces of glass back here. But Tom's going and sticking a probe and there's a privy under your garage,
right. I'm going to take out the concrete.
Yeah. I'm going to bring in a backhoe
with a jackhammer. Yeah. What is that?
That's the one that got me about when I watched Bottle Ned. I watch his stuff, and they're like, we're probing a parking lot. Well, how do you even know where to start in a cement parking lot?
Yeah, how do
that's
you know?
Some good research.
No, that's some great research. I tell you what.
Yeah.
But can you imagine, how our biggest question for Tom was how do you get permission to dig a 6 by 8 by 10 foot hole?
Right.
Even if you say I'm going to replace everything, that's still got to put people on edge. You know what I mean? I don't know if I would do that. I don't know if I'd say, even if they said, do you know? Well, I probably would, but.
I wonder if it has something to do with the fact that his channel is already kind of famous and he can show them, look, this is what I do. This is what, if I find anything.
Well, he's got newspaper articles and, his YouTube channel and social media and things like that to sit there and say, listen, what was his number? Was it 1,600 privies he's dug or something like that?
Wow.
Yeah. So, I mean, when you've got a resume to show that's pristine like that, it kind of helps a little bit.
Well, what cracks me up when I watch his, he was like, well, I'm 6 foot down. I'm 8 foot down. I'm going on 12 foot.
Right.
I hit 3 or 4 feet and I'm like, this might not be worth it.
Yeah. Right. That's some scary stuff.
And what he doesn't show you on cameras when he goes 5, 6, 7 feet down and he doesn't find anything, but maybe just some modern stuff, he's like, oh man, I got to fill that hole back in.
Yeah.
It's crazy. He's got to, for us, when we go to knock on doors or we go to ranches and we go ask landowners, sometimes we mention the YouTube things. Most time we kind of don't. We really just want to get the permission based on history and connecting with that person based on the history of their property. And then kind of as a side, we'll kind of go, oh, we have this fin. And don't worry, we don't show where we're at because we're always afraid they're going to be like, well, don't put my place. I don't want a bunch of people coming around here knocking on our door,
Right. Well, I proposed a TV show. I got a hold of HGTV and they were talking about how they flip houses. That was called. Well, can't remember the name of the show, but
there's a bunch of them.
I contacted them and they sent me a non-disclosure, and I sent them back the idea where I wanted to metal detect the yards of the houses that they were redoing, and anything that I find they could incorporate into the house, or the homeowner could have here's a piece of history from your 1860s house.
Right.
And they passed on the idea, but I still think it's a great idea.
Sure.
Yeah. And Ken and I, when we have found some stuff and the homeowners are involved or they're interested, we definitely give back to the homeowners and things like that, because, that object is part of that homestead, that house, that history, that location. So we
when
love
they're
being
into
able
it,
to,
right? When they're into it, there's
when
nothing
they're
better,
into it.
right? There's
And if
nothing
you've
better
got a
than
pocket watch in somebody's yard, they would love to have that hanging or displayed in their, old farmhouse.
Yeah. I've got permission to hunt my great grandfather's homestead back in Kansas, and it's 8 acres. There's nothing there. There's the old foundation. I've never been there, but I know where it's at, and I have permission to go there and dig there. And I told Tony, if we ever make a road trip and we go there, I find anything, my last name is King, right? So we find anything that says King on it or has a K on it, or any of my father's siblings has their name on it, I'm going to flip out. Like I might be done at that point.
It'd be pretty cool. So what got you into the bottle digging, metal detecting? What were you drawn like to history? Do you have the history interest, or what kind of got you into it?
Yeah, like teaching a 10-year-old to be excited about a bottle. Like, where did that come from?
Well, I'm a huge Western. I love Westerns, and growing up on like Gunsmoke and Rifleman and all that stuff, I was thrilled by the Old West. So anything that I thought, a cowboy drink out of this whiskey bottle, that excited me as a kid.
Wow. I could see that. Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely.
But exciting you, and then having to go do all that work to kind of dig down in bottles. But I guess it's like anything, right? Once you discover something and you're there with like parents and stuff or other adults, and they're getting excited over something,
right?
Like it's probably pretty infectious, I would think.
Yeah, Dad's digging. My brother, I have an older brother who was digging. So basically, I was scratching. You know what I mean? They were doing the heavy work, and I was, got
they'd be like
one stick.
Yeah, they'd be like, Steven, come over here. See that green thing down there? Go pull that brown thing out. Or you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You're like, what is it? You're like, I can see.
Well, it's kind of the same thing. When I was a kid, my dad raised Charolais cattle down in Texas, and since I was the smaller one, I was the one that my dad would go, put your arm up in there and put this rope on that calf's hoof.
Yeah. Come on up here. We got a special treat for you.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Do you remember kind of what was like the oh my gosh bottle or something that you found digging in those pits? Do you remember something that really just kind of drew you in or hooked you, from that point on?
Well, I think the thing that just got me originally was just finding something that had a city name on it that tied it all together. That you're like, this is a Leadville soda water.
Right.
That kind of
right. Yeah. Right. Yeah, isn't that cool?
It's funny. Yeah. It's funny you exactly said that, because when I was in Leadville and I was digging and I found a medicine bottle, just a rectangle, and it was embossed. It said Leadville on the side of it, and it was Dr. Johnson's syrup or whatever. Yeah, and it was complete. It was whole, and I flipped out. Yeah. And it just was something so special to connect it to that point. And this old timer that I was digging kind of over on the other side and stuff, he comes walking up. Hey, did you guys find anything? Oh yeah, let me show you. I got this Leadville bottle. He goes, it's worth $5.
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't care. It's in that case right here. And I'm always going to remember, because it's got the embossing on it for Leadville. I mean, I was there.
Yeah.
And then you start doing the research then, that doctor was only in Leadville for 2 years. So I can, very specific time period. And it just drives me nuts. But some other guys like, it's $5. Who cares?
Yeah.
But I'll save that forever in my case and talk about it on podcasts.
Well, I'm that way with certain bottles. I have different places around my house where I have groupings of old bottles, and they're basically worth nothing but for me to go, I found this ketchup bottle behind a cabin. I found, this kind of thing. So
do people ask you about it when they come over?
Yeah.
They're like, Steve, what's up with all the bottles?
Yeah. What's up with all the trash?
Trash.
Right. The trash. One man's trash.
Let's go to Steve's house. He's a trash collector. Let's go over. Hey, bring him that empty 7-Up bottle over there. I bet he'll want it.
He'll put that on his shelf.
People
y'all probably know the guy too. I wish I could remember his name, but the Adventure Archaeology, the guy that does the
Brandon.
Yeah, Brandon. I met him at the Garrett thing, Garrett hunt. And he gets excited when he finds like 1950s, 40s bottles, and he's walking the creek, and I still can't do that. It's got to be turn of the century or more.
Yeah.
He was here not too long ago. Ken, were you going to tell the story here?
Go ahead. Yeah.
So he was here not too long ago in Colorado. He was here on vacation with his family. I think they were up in Steamboat Springs, and the river kind of running through Steamboat there. And he's like, well, this is what I do. Let's go wander the creek down in Steamboat. He goes, you guys have nothing. There's no trash in your streams. There's nothing up there.
Yeah.
He says, you go to Alabama and there's the waters come through, the heavy rains come through, and they dig up, they bring out more bottles, and you get to replenish with old stuff. He says, I didn't see any trash in yours at all. He says, I found nothing.
Yeah.
So, well, there's a little bit of a difference between, time period wise for Alabama versus Steamboat Springs, Colorado.
Right.
He's brilliant. Yeah. Go ahead, Steve.
There's a creek that runs through, a couple of them that run through Parker, where I live. I'm sure you've noticed that. And I thought about doing some creek walking myself, but now that he's saying there's nothing in Colorado.
Well,
at least in the mountains, he's on Steamboat. You know what I mean?
The one you're speaking of has some incredible history. I know some good spots for that, and you and I have to go out there and walk that creek. We'll find some stuff.
Well, I've talked to a kid out here that's found arrowheads along that creek.
So. Yeah. Kidding.
Yep. It's a very well established river creek that kind of established the state. So it is a good spot. You just haven't gotten out there. I mean, there's so many other places to go and do and stuff. So
yeah, you guys are both in a great area down there. There's there's a lot of places to venture out there that you can discover some stuff. But Brandon Nicholas on Adventure Archaeology, he also does something that's pretty brilliant. He takes all the bottles that are broken, and then he has a guy that cuts them into drinking glasses for him.
Yeah.
He polishes them up, and then he'll sell those on eBay or whatever. And that's just a brilliant idea because, he, at some point he said, what am I going to do with all these broken bottles? Like we find more broken ones than we find full ones, you know? And to come up with an idea like that was just brilliant.
Well, his wife takes the, even the broken shards and makes jewelry out of it too. So yeah, they get a great thing going. They're very creative people. I'd love to meet Brandon one time. You and I, Ken, we've talked with him numerous times. We've done some off the air Zoom calls with him and that kind of stuff. So great guy. I'd love to hang out with him. He's another guy. Just the knowledge just flows out as soon as he opens his mouth.
Yeah,
that's great.
Yeah, I was doing a show in Birmingham just not long ago and contacted him about coming to a show. And and he said, oh, I would love to, and I would, but the whole family's sick. And then, God, perfect timing.
Perfect timing, of course.
Right.
Well, Mudflap, how did you kind of transition from bottles to metal detecting? Like, to me, that seems like a natural transition because of the people really you're surrounded with.
But it was my brother did it. My brother was he was going to college for archaeology. That's what he was going for. But there's a lot of unemployed archaeologists, and he got into metal detecting, and he bought one of those early Garrett. Was it called Sportsman or Sport something or?
Yeah, that's before.
I think so.
For sure. Somebody in the chat will know.
It was a silver case about this big, and it,
Yeah, like a muffler on a stick.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. But I remember his very first metal detector was a transistor radio on a stick. You had to tune it to the channel of the coil.
No kidding.
That was his very first one.
Wow.
But I would watch him find stuff, and it just was amazing. And then he started moving up to finding silver coins. And that's when I thought, okay, I'm buying my own. But I bought mine in '75, the Garrett VLF. And I think I paid $500 for it in '75.
Wow. So that was an investment for sure.
Y'all back then,
Wow. Like, if I can find a bunch of silver coins, is that what you mainly went after? Did you go after mainly coins? And
that was one of the mistakes that my brother and I have talked about that we've made. Now that can look back, we were heavily into finding silver coins. So we were finding we were doing old houses and parking lots and fields and next door to movie theaters. We'd walk away with $6 or $7 $half from the 1950s, and we were like, yeah. But we missed out on all the stuff that they were actually hunting for in Houston. They were finding like the 1860s and 70s and 1880s, because we were more into coin shooting, as they called it at the time.
Yeah. Yep. And you guys were just happy with it too.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Tickle pink.
I mean, we've got like cases of coins. I still have every coin I've ever found. My brother has sold his off over the years. You know, like I sold $1,000. I bought a new metal detector, and that's the way he does it.
Nice.
Yeah, one of the few hobbies that'll pay for itself. You know what I mean? If you go after coins and jewelry and stuff like that. I know people that finance their trips to England and all kinds of stuff. You know,
I think a lot of us
swim beaches.
I think a lot of us start out kind of as the coin shooter, and then you start talking about, well, you can find jewelry, and then I know for Ken and I, and I'm sure for you as well, him and I, we've evolved into the relic side, and the history and the research, and getting on the old, you know, like you said, 1860s down in Houston.
Yeah.
That's really what draws us in. Is that kind of how you kind of focus your intentions on now? Is that what you're really looking for? Or are you still kind of coin shooting, or are you just looking to get out?
I'm looking to get out, but I've widened my scope, because like I contacted you about finding the old button in downtown. I've learned to look for, okay, this is an 1880s house. It's about to be torn down. You know, that kind of stuff. And I'm not just looking for like, oh, this was a park. I bet I can find some silver, you know?
Right. Yeah. Right. Well, how has it changed? I mean, you know, you said you started detecting like 75. How have parks changed? You know, because it's public, right? You don't need permission. Well,
right.
In a sense, but you know, the evolution of a park from the 70s until now, holy cow, completely different. You were in the golden age of metal detecting.
Yeah, we could find silver like anytime we went out. I mean, a lot of silver, and you got to remember that was like less than 10 years, or right around 10 years from the end of silver. So you were finding it a lot more.
Yeah,
man. Ken and I missed out. Jeez.
No, you find the silver these days, and you're like, oh.
Well, you know, I missed out.
Everyone comes running.
I missed out when I moved to Colorado. My machine would not ground balance here, and I had trouble with my Garrett, so I actually didn't metal detect for like 10 or 12 years, because I thought, well, my machine doesn't work here, I don't know anybody here, and then my brother turned me on to the newer Garrett stuff, and I thought, okay, everything's improved, I'm back in, you know.
There you go. I can handle this mineralized soil now.
But that old VLF just did not work well here in Colorado.
Yeah.
I've heard that before from people that have been detecting here a long time. We got a lot of people in our club that have been detecting for a long time. They same thing when you talk to them, like, yeah, we hit that in the 60s and the 70s or whatever, the 70s. You know, and you're like, man,
we were just at a site.
Discovery.
We were just at a site, Ken, in fact, and I had posted something. Somebody reached out to me, said, "Oh yeah, we dug that in the 80s." Like,
in the 80s.
Okay, well, you missed this. We found this really cool thing. You missed this.
Never dug out. Never.
Well, that's never right. That was to say, it's never dug out. And with the evolution of the machines, it's going deeper and deeper. So.
Yeah.
Like I've been hearing a lot about the Manicore. You know, I'm a Garrett guy. I really am a Garrett guy, but I've been hearing great stories about the Manicore.
That's it right there.
That's Tony.
Behind you.
And I can tell you,
love the Manicore. So,
I always testify to this, Tony. You know I do.
He talks me up.
When I met Tony, he was a Garrett guy through and through. And I was trying all these different metal detectors. He's like, God, you just stick with one, man. I'm a Garrett guy through and through. And
I know my
Manicore, yeah, absolutely. I know what it sounds like. I can tell you what date the coin is.
Yeah.
So, you know, he when he got that Manicore, as a witness to him, because we were digging together exclusively at that point, I saw his detecting skill and ability to dig less trash targets and more good targets just skyrocket. And as he continued to learn that machine more and more and more and more, it's ridiculous now. Like we'll go out, it's just ridiculous. Like almost don't like going out with him anymore. It's ridiculous.
Get out of here.
Well, let me ask them. Well, then let me ask. I want to ask a metal detecting question then.
Okay.
How does it? Because I've been talking to Mig over at Garrett. about, because I've been thinking about a vortex. Digger Dawn is an online friend too, and she's like all of it, like, oh, the vortex is yeah. So how is it doing against the Manicore, or even?
So I've never tested the vortex. We weren't lucky enough to get a tester model. I've heard great things about the vortex. Don't get me wrong. Lots and lots of good things. And it's fun. It's really funny. I was actually thinking about this the other day. There's that build up to the vortex and kind of some letdown with the vortex. And then when everybody first got it, it was all about how horrible it was. It doesn't have this. We haven't heard very much lately from those people about how bad it is. I think now that they've used it, they've gotten used to it. It's a little bit of there's a lot of newer technology into it. Now that they've figured it out, I think that they're really going, this is a pretty darn good machine. And I'm on some Facebook pages with the Vortex, and I see lots and lots of relics and coins and things like that, and lots of positive stuff coming about it for sure. To be honest, I think the difference between these machines, I think as we've worked through time, there was a larger gap between some machines and others. And as we're going, the technology is improving, but everybody's getting closer and closer in terms of what these machines are doing. And I think it's coming down more to the user versus more than the machine. You get that machine, you need to learn it. When I first started, I remember somebody told me I need 10,000 hours on my machine before I can even figure it out. When you learn that machine, you can swing that thing and out and how to hunt anybody else because your machine. So when you're comparing apples to oranges, just give me grapes. I know my grapes. I'm going to find what I want to find, what I can't find with my grapes.
Well, there was a guy down in Texas who part of the Houston Treasure Hunting Club, a guy named Buster, who he just recently passed away, but he'd been using an Ace 300. And was killing it. I mean, killing it. Not just like, we're got AT Max and we're missing stuff that he's like, look what you stepped over.
Right. What do I say? Yeah. It's inches and angles, man.
Angles.
These machines will find the stuff, whether it's got this bell or that whistle, means something to somebody, but to the majority of the people. So anybody just getting into the hobby, it's not going to mean much because they're going to have to learn all these bells and whistles or whatever machine they buy. Even if their machine only has one bell and one whistle, it's going to be the best bell and whistle they've ever had. And they're going to learn it. Somebody's been in and they're going to upgrade their machine. They have experience on their machine. Like you, Steve, you like Garrett, you want to stick with Garrett. I highly recommend the Vortex because it's going to feel similar, even though the sounds are probably going to be different. You're going to have that same kind of feel, that connection. I think that it's definitely has more technology. We had Steve Moore on here. He's with sales and marketing, and we gave one away here on the show, and he talked all about it. And he was just telling us about all these things. And he did admit that when they first launch a product, like they just ran it into the ground trying to get everything perfect. But until they get in consumers' hands and they start getting feedback, they don't really know, but listening to those customers, making changes, doing the upgrade. That's what I liked about all the modern machines, but the Vortex, it's chargeable, it's updatable, upgradable, all that stuff, updatable and upgradable. And I asked him what the difference was about that. And he said, you can get a VX7. And if you want to go up to the VX9, you pay a little bit of money and you upgrade the machine to a VX9 over the internet. Like you don't have to now go buy a new VX9 and sell the VX7. Like it's upgradable.
Right. Well, I did that with I bought the Apex when it came out.
Yep. I've got that too.
And I did a couple of the, online upgrades.
Well, the updates.
The updates. Updates on it.
All that stuff helps. But
I ended up, I just recently, even though I love Garrett, I did get a MindLab Equinox 800.
Oh, did you?
So I'm learning that because the Apex put me toward that more of a. I like this digital kind of thing, this. Yeah. But that's why I want to go with the Vortex because I hate to not be a Garrett guy.
Well, yeah, they're great company, great American company. They stand by their product. Some of the best customer service that I've heard out there, and wonderful.
They
you can't go
reworked
wrong.
my pinpointer. Like I was having trouble and mailed it in, no problem, sent it back.
Right.
And it worked like a brand new thing. I mean, it was like no problem, no questions.
No questions. Yeah.
No questions.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, when I started, I actually started with the Ace 250. I went to the AT Pro, went to the AT Gold, went to the Apex. So, I mean, you talk about a Garrett. I was live and die by the Garrett, Yeah, absolutely. And the Manicore came out and I was on the fence. I was like, I'm in the hobby now. I love the hobby. But I want to take that next really far step, to the higher end machines. I was looking at the Deus 2 and the Manicore. The Manicore was just coming out. I used it down in Oklahoma at an event in Oklahoma. And I came home, Ken and I came home and I ordered it immediately. And, I'm not poo-pooing Garrett at all. I love Garrett. I learned on Garrett. Garrett is I've got 4 Garrett machines on the wall over there.
Yeah.
But my Manicore, I tell you, I'm really, really learning it now. And it's really tough to beat out there. But again, it's the user and the machine.
It's like you were saying earlier about knowing, like, maybe it's because of my radio background or whatever, but I hear sounds that my brother doesn't hear. Like, I'm with, like,
you're an amazing hobby then.
This is a dime,
right.
By the sound, like this is dime.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
And that's hard that takes a long time to learn. In the chat, Fred Starr asked a question. He said, I have a Knox 800. Is it worth upgrading to the Manticore, the Knox 900, or the XP Deus 2 Master? And I told him that's a very hard question to answer, because the Knox 800, as long as it's working for you still, will find you just as much as all those other machines will find you. So if you think you're missing out, there's some other features. Like, I'm a big XP Deus 2 user, right? And that machine amazes me with all it can do. And it's mainly the customizability to my ground conditions and what kind of targets I'm looking for. And I can customize all that and get a lot of worth out of the customization. Sometimes customization are just little bells and whistles. The customization on the XP Deus 2 is huge. Like, it makes the difference. And I don't know about the Knox 900. It's probably gonna be very similar to your Knox 800. So that's only if you just want a modern machine, you have the money to spend. But the Manticore and the XP Deus 2, I think, are different machines than the Equinox products.
Is the XP Deus, is that the one that now you could wear just the earpiece with the stick?
Yeah. The earpiece has a controller on it. And you can take that off and put it just on the head of the stick, the top of the shaft. Yeah. And it does everything that the other remote control does. With an XP Deus, with most machines, the brain is in the head unit. And then it goes down and pulls information from the coil that is sending information, usually through a wire, to the head main controller. On an XP Deus, the main controller, everything's in the coil. And it feeds information wirelessly. So there's no wire on an XP Deus.
Yeah.
To a receiver that's relating the information wirelessly to a headphone set, or to whatever you want to do. Yeah. So you take that earpiece off, and it has everything but just like a couple of features that you don't really use much anyways. It does everything the remote control can do, and it lessens the price of the XP Deus 2 down to about $750. So it's a great machine. But it's just different. It's a different way of thinking about detecting, because usually you have like these limited number of modes or limited number of programs that you can use, and squeak it out with discrimination and all this different setup. But the Deus really goes a step further, and you're tweaking a lot of different stuff on that.
Well, how are you guys with the standard settings? Like, a lot of people will, like, you're tweaking, or you do this, or you can download this to that, where I hear people go, I put it on part 2 and I go.
And you go. Yeah,
I mean,
I have to admit, I haven't changed much of the settings off the factory setting on the Manicore. I'm still really learning how to learn it 100%. I have started tweaking some sensitivity, and that kind of thing to try and, get a little bit more depth or, those kind of different things. I'm starting to finally get into that side of it. But I'll tell you, for me, the Manicore, I turn it on and go, I ground balance and go. It's a phenomenal machine. And now I get 7 minutes to talk about the Manicore to make up for the Deus talk.
Talk about the Deus 2, because what the Deus 2 does is the Deus 2 does the things that the Manticore doesn't do. It's the Deus.
Oh, what? Oops, Ken. Looks like Ken fell. I'm so sorry,
no,
Ken. Look at that.
I don't believe
we have this ongoing discussion about the Deus and the Manicore. They're both great, fantastic machines.
Now
these
machines, like one of them, I watch different people metal detect in different countries, and they prefer different machines for different countries. Is that
right.
just because of where they're made, or you think it's because of the ground or what they're used for?
Yeah, good question.
That's a good question.
Yeah, it could be. I don't know. I don't know. I guess I'm opinionated, but I think a lot of people can be lazy, like in anything, right? A lot of people like the easy way. And so if they have one machine that's better and comes right out of the package, more in tune with their mineralization and kind of what they're looking for, maybe a lot of people in that area look for, that machine sells well there because, one, a lot of people in the area have it. Two, it comes right out of the package and works really well in the ground there, and they don't need to do much adjusting.
I think we got a comment in the chat here. Canslaw says coins are made differently, like U.S. coins versus Canadian coins, and I will tell you, Ken and I both have been to England as well. Metal detecting in England is completely different than it is metal detecting in the United States in terms of the sounds that you're listening for. Super rare to find those high tones that we love to find here in the States. Yes. Silver all over the place, right? 87, 89, 91, it's screaming. You go over to England,
that peak.
Oh yeah. Yes. You go to England and you're hoping for midtones all day long is where all the good stuff is. And it has to do with, like Canslaw said, they're made differently. You're talking about history, and so it could be, what you're looking for in the different countries as well. Like Australia, looking for gold. That's a very low mid-tone that you're looking for. Yeah. And they're just pounding that looking for gold nuggets.
Yeah, it is a big difference. In the U.S., we're listening to those high tones, but we're just trying not to get fooled by that deep iron or that deep can or any of that trash. And when you're in England, you really don't have to think about that at all.
That's awesome.
Like you are just listening for a good solid signal, and no matter what, you're going to dig it. You're just listening for that pop. And the only trash you really, you just want metal. I mean, it can, and any tone can be something a couple thousand years old. So about the only trash you find over there mainly is like World War II anti-aircraft flak and stuff like that. Well, but even that's cool to find, right?
I recently, and I think I was telling Tony about this. I searched just an open field, which I don't do a lot. And I went for, I'm digging every signal, and it was kind of cool to find, okay, a harmonica reed. Oh, now a spoon. Now a piece of horse tack. Oh, this is a Sharps bullet, where instead of just looking for that coin sound.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you're on a homestead site in those fields and things like that, you should be digging everything. Absolutely. And I love the variety of things that come out when you're doing that too, because you're not just trying to coin shoot and you're going to find a 2017 penny.
Yes.
And you're like, you got to be kidding me. But just being able to call me weird, I love finding square nails. Square nails tell me I'm in the right spot.
Yes.
Love it.
I feel that way when I go out. I look for broken glass, color glass, or pieces of purple glass to let me know the age is right.
Yeah.
Yes.
We'll research places, and we'll go out, and sometimes it'll be in the middle of nowhere, and we'll be on this big old area, permission on this sort of pasture, this cow pasture, grazing fields on some guy's ranch. And we'll be out there looking for this old home site. And you got a general location from the overlay of the old topo site, but it's not always exact. So we're like looking around, and we're maybe, eighth of a mile away from each other. And then, Tony be like, I got purple glass. And I'll look up, and then 5 minutes later, he's like, I've got pottery. And that's it. That's where we're heading. We found the home site. We're heading that way. And then the relics start popping. Yeah. You're there.
Yeah, there was a site out here where I live where I was hunting that they've eventually ran me off because they turned it into they're building a neighborhood. And I know from what I was finding that it was an 1870s on up kind of thing. And I never found the actual bottled area. So I'm pretty sure when they were bulldozing over this neighborhood, they came across a pretty good bottle area. And it bugs me so bad.
It does. It's just getting at you. You're like, man, they have paved over that now. And,
yes.
Oh, yeah.
I know the area, the exact area you're talking about. And I wish we could have come across each other's path a little bit earlier in life, because I would have loved to have hunted that spot with you.
Had you ever hunted that spot? You know what the one I'm talking about, because I sent you a picture.
Yep, I know exactly where that was, and that was on my radar and forever. And then all of a sudden one day it was they're pulling topsoil off of it. I'm like, oh man, I missed it.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Somebody obviously hit it way before I did. I mean, I found some nice stuff.
Sure.
Obviously somebody really got to it before me, because there was
that's generally going to happen nowadays. There's not very many. Well, I can't say that. There are a lot of virgin sites still out there that nobody knows about. So,
that's one of the reasons I'm a fan of and the Houston Detecting Club that I belong to. Even though I live here now, I still belong to. Is we're more into demolition and plumbing sites. Where you find out this house is going to be torn down next week, or, and this is on the plumbing to have everything turned off. So let's hit the yard before it's scraped.
Yeah.
And you could find absolutely virgin property. You're like, look at all the silver coming out of this thing.
Yeah. We had a guy in our club, Alan Bravo.
Oh my gosh.
He's no longer with the club. He moved away, but that guy, we had like Find of the Month Club. So, every month we have our meeting, people come in and bring their stuff.
Yeah.
All these different categories. You've probably seen it in your clubs, right? And you get Find of the Month. And every time it was this Alan Bravo guy. And you come up and you kind of grab the mic and you're like, well, I was here, roughly in this area. I was using the AT Pros, this like that. And I found this is 4 inches down and blah, 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 right? Tell a little story. So he would win like multiple categories all the time, every month. He'd come up. Tony and I would look at each other. Yeah, Tony and I would look at each other and he goes, well, it was on a scrape off. Like we joke about it in the audience. Yeah. And he go, well, I was at a scrape off in blah, blah, blah in Denver. And that's all he did was scrape off.
That's all he did was scrape offs.
And you can find permits for all that stuff online. It's public thing. You can go there and search, scrape off permits.
Well, that's what my brother and his guys, they sit up at midnight. They release the list for the next day.
There you go.
And so they get it and they're out like, daylight.
Yeah.
And they'll be the first person because the plumbing is going to be turned off, and it's a yard. I mean, it's like mowed, nice yard. Just nobody lives there, but it's about to be torn down.
It's a proven tactic, man. I'm telling you what,
it is.
Alan Bravo proved that to us.
Yeah. I would love to do more of that here, but I hadn't been able, and I've tried to reach out to some of the demolition, the signs that say it's going to be torn down by such and such, but they never respond around here.
Yeah, they don't. And, it's always
stupid construction companies, I tell you.
Well, this is something I was,
yeah.
I did not know. One of the things I was telling my brother is like down in Houston, even though the house is about to be torn down in 2 weeks, there's no fence. Fences go up around here long before the houses come down.
Right.
And I've always wondered why.
Yeah.
They go to the meetings just to talk about it, to get approval from the city, and there's already a fence around it.
That's the trouble is you find these permits that are issued through the city, but you don't know if they're digging the next day or they're just getting the permission for another 2 weeks. So when Alan was moving away, one of the questions I asked him, I said, I know you're on this site and I know you're looking at these permits. And he swears up and down he's not. He's a realtor, so he's always in neighborhoods and stuff, and he just notices these things. So he marks them down and what stage of demolition they're in.
Yeah.
And I go, are you calling these people and saying, like, when are you actually going to be tearing it down and when can I get in there? And he swears he didn't do any of that stuff. So.
Yeah. Well, a couple of the demolition companies honestly just gave straight permission. Like if it's one of our sites, you guys can go on anytime you want to.
Oh, cool.
That's awesome.
But they don't fence it like they do here.
Oh,
sure.
Yeah,
sure.
Well, let me get a list. where you guys going to next? Because it is, man.
Well, that's why I was telling you. I look for the scrapes around downtown Denver.
Yeah.
And I was saying earlier that I'm one that I just jump on and ask permission if there's a problem. And I know that's not the way to do it. I know that, but I find it's easier for somebody to go, "What are you doing here? Can I have permission?" Okay.
Yeah. There was a post today on this Facebook group I belong to from Buckleboy, our friend Buckleboy out of Louisiana.
Yeah, Louisiana.
And he was talking about research and he was talking about finding things in virgin sites and how there's so few virgin sites left, especially because most people just use the same old typical research tactics that everyone has been using, the topo overlays and all that stuff. So you're basically seeing stuff that everyone else can see. And he was talking about, you got to go deeper. You got to think of more unique ways of, he was telling everyone, pick up a book, read a book. There's nothing like reading a book, and it kind of, he was like lecturing people on, unique
Get off the Google.
Yeah, that's right. So, building departments, scrape offs, those are great opportunities because maybe the front yard has been hit a year ago or two, but once they scrape all that stuff off, it's going to expose all kinds of stuff. Tony and I were lucky enough to do a stagecoach stop.
Yeah, so I saw that
caught fire and it got leveled. And so it was leveled, right? And so you think they scrape everything off there, you're not going to find anything. It was one of our favorite hunts. It was one of our best hunts we've had probably ever. We found so much stuff. And it'd been hunted. It had been hunted by numerous people. And we show up there and we're just finding seated quarters and seated half dimes and seated all kinds of stuff. 1844, like ridiculous stuff for Colorado. Like, oh my gosh, blow your mind away moments.
The oldest I have found here in Colorado for me is an 1875 dime.
Is that right?
Yeah.
1875. So is that seated. Was that seated?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're lucky, man, because seated's rare here.
Seated's rare in Colorado.
Rare. That hunt I'm talking about, I said, and I've always said that I would never find a seeded coin. Like it would be extremely rare. What's on your bucket list, Ken, for Colorado? It would be a seeded something. And I just never thought I would find it and end up finding two that day. Back to back.
I love hearing the stories about like you guys finding the good stuff because that's what I want to find here in Colorado. And I was watching the Hoover Boys for a while, but I started finding them really annoying because I'm never going to find a large cent here.
No,
I'm not going to find a colonial. I want to see the 1870s, 1880s stuff.
Right. There's a lot of people out west here that dig, you know what I mean? Like the Key Date Kid was just in here, Casey with Excalibur Shovels. I saw him in here and he, he's out west. He's out here west with us, a little further west. And you can find the old stuff. You just got to, like a large cent would just be ridiculous to find here. It would be that somebody brought that as part of a collection or something. Probably weren't using it. They probably have no use coming this way with it. But if you found it,
a large cent recently found down in Houston. So, and that's another one is odd.
Wow. Yeah.
I can't remember what year Cindy found, but she texted me a couple years ago. She was up in, I think, Central City, and they were redoing the street. Like you and I talked about.
Yeah.
They were redoing the street. And so she went out at night onto the area that they had just pulled up. And she did find a large cent there in Central City.
Wow. Of course, Cindy would.
So, of course,
Cindy's crazy. She's retired. She goes out all the time. She just hunts from sun up to sundown. She's a go-getter, man.
You can't keep up with her.
I was doing street tear-outs in Salida. That's where they were. And I found some stuff, but not as old as I expected because it was kind of off to the side, out of downtown.
But I bet you're excited, man. Anytime you see a street tear out, right? Or a sidewalk tear out, you're like,
Yeah.
That's it. Hang on. I'm making a turn.
Do you guys do that? I mean, I drive with my brain constantly like scaling. Like the other day I was driving to the mountains. I was going up to Frisco and I look over at Idaho Springs and I'm like, are they tearing out part of the freeway? You know?
I was going to say, Ken, he is one of us. He is my wife. My wife hates riding with me anywhere because I'm driving and I'm like, oh, there's an old house right there. Oh, I'm going to mental note. I tell her all the time. She's like, all you ever talk about is number one, Ken. Number two, metal detecting. She says, I'm tired of hearing the same things over and over. And
honey, send me a text. 13th and Laurel. Send me a text. 13th and Laurel. Quick, do it.
I got to remember that.
Yeah, my wife's actually gotten so used to it that bless her, she is starting to support it. So she'd be like, honey, did you see that on the right over there? And I was like,
of course I did.
Yeah, I saw that 3 blocks back.
Yeah.
I think mine took off because I started loving metal detecting more.
Oh, well, then it's probably best. It wasn't.
It became the other woman.
You're holding your machine like this.
Yeah, it becomes the other woman, doesn't it, Steve? Sure does. Yeah.
That's funny.
Yeah, it is because it can get that way, man. You can get really addicted to it. I don't know why. It's just like every beep's like Christmas, right? You're like, oh my God, it's either something great
the
or
ground is
like
putting out more than your wife.
I knew the jokes would start coming from Mudflap.
I know. It took 58 minute for them to start.
And after that, the show degraded down. That's funny. But every single person here in the chat, I guarantee, is the same exact way. Yes. Head's always on a swivel. Probably have already been in a few wrecks because of their head being on a swivel. And because what was there, especially when you start studying old maps like those fire insurance maps, the Sanborn fire insurance maps. Like, I can't go to a downtown now that I've researched without being like, is that the old pool hall? Is that the old saloon? Holy it's a couch store now. It's a furniture store.
Yeah.
They're looking pretty old. When are they going to start tearing that down? Because a lot of drunk people, drop money. I'm going to go back there and check that.
Well, I feel that way about any open place, any grass, because I was watching the Kevin Costner movie Horizon, and you see him, just throwing stuff over, or somebody killed in the middle of nowhere, and you think that's probably where Walmart is now.
Yeah, right.
So I look, every piece of ground to me is I don't know what was there before. So I'm open to hunt like a 6x6 piece of grass.
Yeah,
sure.
I'm a subcontractor in the construction industry, and I went to this job downtown Cherry Creek. They were building this big building. It was my job, but I wasn't a general contractor. I was working for a GC, and I went into the trailer there to talk to the general contractor. And and I'm looking, and next to his computer monitor, he's got all these bottles. He's got some blue bottles. He's got some green bottles, old bottles, turn of the century. And I'm looking at him like, cool, man. You into bottles? Like, you collect bottles? He's like, no, man, we just found all these out here on the property as we started clearing stuff away. There was an old shack right there. We kind of cleared it away. He goes, we had a whole box of them over there underneath the cabinet. And I go over there and look, and I'm just like, I started researching them, and they are all like 1905, 1910, something like that, but still cool. And he's like, are they worth anything? I go, sometimes they can be, man. You got to, don't be breaking these things. At least look them up.
Yeah.
Most bottles can sell for $5-10, whatever, but you got a whole collection of them here. And they're just like, well, here, we'll give them all to you. And if any of them's worth anything, take us to lunch or share the money with us,
Did you take them?
I did. I took them all and researched them all, and there was no bangers in there, but they were all, cool old medicine bottles and old baby food jars and stuff like that, and hot sauce bottles and stuff from the early 1900s. So it was, there was no Denver bottle or whatever the Holy Grail is we're all looking for. But they said there was another house there that they were using as their construction trailer, this old house. And I go, what's going to happen to this house, guys? Because I'd finished my job. I was saying goodbye to them, they're going to finish the project without me. And they're like, we're going to tear this house down. There's plans to demo this house. And I'm like, guys, please, when you do that, would you let me come on here and detect this whole area? You just keep me when that demo starts, please contact me. And they did call me, but they said they changed their mind. They said to keep that house there. They're going to use it for something else. And I was like, okay, all right. So, but yeah, I was shocked to see all those bottles there. And I was just like, oh, and then they were like, oh yeah, they were all scattered all over the place out here. And I was thinking, cha-ching, like, oh my gosh, like that.
Right.
That's pretty cool,
That was one of the really good bottles that I found just not long ago. Was that they were right on the bayou of Houston, where Houston's built on Buffalo Bayou right there, and they were tearing down an old building, and bottles just started falling out of the side of the dirt, like kind of we come up with the venture archaeology. It was it was going into so we started scratching around in there. And I found it was the end of a torpedo shaped bottle. And my brother recognized it before I did. And he goes, I'll give you $200 for that bottle. and I'm scratching some more. And he goes, $300. So, and I go, obviously, no, I don't know what this is yet, but no. So I pulled out, it used a Star Bottling Works. I ended up selling for $500 to a museum.
Is that right?
Yeah, because there was only three known intact.
Yeah,
and but so that's why we do what we do, because you never know what you're going to find ever.
Yeah, right. I'm going to share this picture real quick. Let me show you this. So the same general contractor I was telling you about went to another project, went on to their next project. And all of a sudden he sends me this picture. He's like, Ken, is this worth anything? He found it on his new project. Check this out. Yeah. So this is right. So this is a Hutch bottle, and it's a star manufacturing, right? I think that's what the star on the bottom there is. And it's a JS Gilbreth bottling company. We looked that in, and they were kind of South Denver. Then they moved kind of mid Denver. He passed it on to his son. And I think this is early 1900s too, real early 1900s, but pretty cool, and he's like already looking, he's already, using me as a resource. I do. I got him hooked. So now he's like sending all this stuff. And I'm just like, are there more there? That's all I want to know. And is it a site I can come dig at,
That's what my brother, he collects Hutches. That's his main, he loves Hutch bottles.
Yeah. They are cool, man. I would love to find
They're
one.
awesome.
I've never located one. I'd love to.
Actually, Brandon sent me one. I've got one that Brandon sent me. He had found. I won one of his giveaways years ago, and it's one of my prized possessions. It's just a unique thing. We'll never find out here in Colorado, and I just love it. They're so cool. So old too.
I'd go to Virginia. This event they have there called Digging in Virginia. It's in Culpeper, Virginia, and they go and it's an event, and you go. And you can dig on old Civil War, like winter camps and stuff, where people would dig huts or, tents with huts in them to kind of camp in over the winter. And so now when you go there and you detect, you're looking for these pits. You're looking for these pits that they covered up. You're looking for charcoal. You're looking for bone. You're looking for bottle fragments, all this stuff. And then once you find that, you just start digging. And they find bottles. They find tons of bottles. And I was on site when they found ink bottles and pickle jars and whiskey bottles and even hair dye bottle. And I was asking these guys, in the Civil War camps too. And I was like, what is that doing in the Civil War camps? And they said, well, look, a lot of these soldiers, if they were of age, if they were a little older, they would always get teased of not being as virile as these young guys and not as strong. So they would dye their hair so they didn't look as old. But then also these camps were visited by lovely ladies that would come and visit these camps, and they wanted to seem young and kind of energetic and stuff. So that's why they would use this hair dye. I wasn't even thinking that, so to find a hair dye bottle is pretty cool, thinking about like what they were using it for, these soldiers trying to last the winter in this camp,
but the story that goes along with it too is almost even better than just the bottle. I mean, that's not in a history book,
right? If it's on my shelf, right, they're like, what is that? Hey, Dad, what's that? It's a hair dye bottle.
Because the guy was trying to attract a soiled dove.
That's it. He had his 3 Merry Widow tin on him, and he was ready for action.
Oh gosh.
That was one of the very first things that I ever found with metal detector. Was the 3 Merry Widow tin.
Neither Tony or I have got one. Yep. It's on our bucket.
Never got one. I found 2 so far, but one was when I was young, and because I was like to my dad, "What is this? Give me that."
Yeah, we never found one, man.
Yeah,
we keep looking for them someday. It's just one of those things, right? Like, what's on your bucket list, Mudflap? Like, what's you said a large cent, which you're probably not going to find here in Colorado.
Probably not.
What do you think?
I would like to find in the wild a silver dollar. That's I have found silver dollars on like seeded hunts and stuff, so I know what they sound like. I get excited, but just to be able to be out in the wild and go, yo! Right.
Could you imagine? Who was it? No. Larry Stevens, longtime listener, good friends of ours. Him and Loy were out digging, probably went in Kentucky, I think, right? And he found a, what did he find? He found was it a Morgan or was it a 8 real?
Oh, I'm sorry. It was an 8 real.
Like a giant piece.
Like
the big one. Big 8 real. And then just a big like that, or a silver dollar, like a Morgan piece dollar or something like that, coming up out of the dirt. Can you believe it? Like it would just shock you. It'd sit you right down. You'd be like, what do I do now?
A Morgan would be crazy, but could you imagine an 8 real? I mean, that's a whole other level.
Yeah.
I would be happy to find a cut real,
Yeah.
Cut real would be awesome.
But that's something we're not going to find around here,
We'll go south. I mean, we got to go towards New Mexico is where we're going to find that. I think
Spanish silver and Spanish gold.
Spanish gold, yeah.
That way. It's guys. It's just there waiting for us. All 3 of us just need to go and start heading that way.
Look, the gold is high on my list. An actual gold coin, of course, but that to me that's like the unicorn. That's just
it's rough.
God has to go.
Yeah, and that's how it feels too, man. It feels like God has opened up the skies and just sent you a blessing for sure.
You can't even prepare for it. You can't prepare for it mentally, emotionally, physically. You can't.
No,
you can't.
Tony and I both found one, and we were different spots, and I didn't know what it was. I knew what it was, but I didn't know what it was. It was totally like a weird thing because it wasn't processing. And then I didn't want to touch it. And then I didn't know what to do. So I know I didn't want to touch it. Excuse me. And I just backed way off. And it's like my friend had to come over and like look at it and get down there and say, oh, it's an 1851 or whatever. So yeah, it was a crazy experience for sure. And Tony was the same way. Like first thing he does is throw up his hands. Like, I don't know what to do. I'm in shock,
I do that with big silver. That if I find like a $50, that's my, the symbol.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. Any shocking
our little thing, if it's in my video sometimes, it's an old Lone Ranger, Hi-Yo silver thing. So it started off going hi-yo, but then my brother and I ended up just going yo. Signal across,
yo. Yeah.
We found silver.
Yeah. I know people like crews like Hoover Boys and like Quarter Hoarder and stuff. They come up with all these signals. Hand signals. You know what I mean? Because you could be a field away and be like, Tony's like, Ohio. I'm like, no, got something round in the hole. It's fun, man. You got to be careful with that, though, because I was in England one time and I thought that I found the best thing ever in the entire world of metal detecting, ever in the history of metal detecting. And we're on walkie-talkies. And seriously, some of us are almost a mile away. We're so spread out. We have so much land to hunt. And I start squawking on the walkie-talkie. I found the most amazing silver Roman coin anybody has ever found in the history of England. And it's going to be in the, the British Museum. I was freaking out because it was just the most amazing thing I ever saw.
It was like it
right?
was hammered
Like when I first showed it to you,
and then just dropped it. It was gorgeous.
Yeah, like
museum quality
chariot and like hunting scene on the back and like emperor's head on the front, and it said Nero on the bottom of it, like all the Roma on the bottom of it, and it's just said all this stuff, and I was just like, oh my god, and it just looked perfect, shaking the whole thing, and then everyone's coming, like here they come from like a mile away, they're coming, I'll be there in a minute, and then the expert came over and he's like, dude, somebody's screwing with you, this is a fake. Somebody planted this shit out here.
Cool.
Somebody planted this to plant a fake on you. I was like, He goes, yeah, they did it one other time. We think it's somebody that belongs to the club that's just having fun with people, because they found one more 3 weeks ago in this other field, 10 miles away or whatever. I was like, you got to be kidding me.
They didn't pull that stunt of the Detector series.
Yeah, right. They didn't pull that crap with those guys. Come on. Oh, he was mad. He's like, if we ever find out who it is, not only would be, eliminated from the club, but it's not going to be a good thing for that guy once we find out who it is, because, we got all these Americans paying money to come over there to hunt in these fields on like this like vacation type thing.
Yeah.
Right. And stuff like that starts happening. If that starts getting out, it'd be like, oh man,
they're seeding it or whatever.
Yeah. You're going to go over there and spend time digging all this fake coins and stuff. But yeah, I mean, still have it. It's still beautiful. I mean, it's still just amazing looking. So
is it still silver?
It is still silver. That's right. So it didn't tarnish or anything. I mean, it's going to hang in there, but, and I got to take it home right away. So that was pretty cool, but, I'm going to turn a negative into a positive. I think I'm going to get it put on one of those little necklaces that holds the coin. Ever seen that prawn necklace? Bezel. You put it in a bezel, and I'm going to wear it around my neck, and it'll be my good luck charm. That's what I'll turn it into a good luck charm, or not.
I wear a 3D printed Garrett coil. That's is my good. I wear it when I go out. Is my good luck.
Nice. Oh, do you? Yeah. That's cool. Yeah, we have a friend Jeff in the club. He's president of our club, and he's really into. He's really tied into it too, like shipwreck treasure hunting. And he's got a coin from the Atocha in a bezel that he wears around his neck all the time, and it just smacks you in the face. You're just like, whoa.
It's right there. When he says, hey, my eyes are up here.
Yeah.
That's exactly what it's like.
Yeah.
Tony and I recently filmed a TV show, and the host of the TV show had just zoomed in on it, and he knew everything about it. Knew where it was minted, knew where the silver came from, and they got along great. And
they connected on that.
They did. They connected on that right away. It just stands out there. It's beautiful though, man. Pretty cool. But so what are some cool things you found? Like sorry, Tony, I stepped on you. You're gonna say something.
Go ahead.
Like some great, wow things. What do you consider some of your better finds?
Well,
that you've been detecting.
My seated dime, of course. Yeah. The Indian head pennies that I found out here around Parker, to me are the good. I just recently found another 1900 Indian head penny at downtown Denver. So that period for me, nothing. Yeah. I've not found anything that I've been like, oh my God, this should be on the cover of Western Treasure.
Yeah.
Though my brother found an 1851 cap and ball pistol. So that's one of those that I wish I would have found,
Yeah. Yeah. Did he find it like 5 feet from you, and you'd already passed over it, and he's like, look what I found.
Look what
is he a typical brother?
He just comes running down the hill off a mountain, just out of the woods.
Oh my gosh. Could you imagine?
Yeah.
Gosh.
I can imagine. Yeah. I
can
picture it though. Like I could be right there with you. I can totally picture
that. Still has wood on the handle.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. I guess the high altitude cold weather preserved it, but
wow.
I'm curious. I know how Ken and I detect together. How is it between you and your brother? Are you guys competitive, or are you happy when he finds that cap and ball pistol?
Competitive Yes, and happy at the same time, because we'll both run over, run over to see it, and then go, "That's awesome! I hate you," that kind of thing.
Yeah. You sit in the truck the rest of the day.
Right. Yeah. Or no, actually, my brother has done stuff like that. Like we'll be hunting, and I'll end up finding like a silver quarter, and I look over, he's sitting in the truck smoking a cigar. Like, I give up. You're the one finding stuff today.
Right. Yeah. No, I mean, Tony and I, we get so excited for each other. I tell you what, like I've been at work. We don't all, we hunt together all the time, but there are some times because of workloads or he's off work or I'm off work, we'll go out on our own or with some other people. One time he was out with some other people and I was at work, and all of a sudden my phone, I don't do FaceTime very much on your iPhone, right? I just don't. And all of a sudden this FaceTime
not even with
comes
your wife.
in.
You just let you and I do it.
It's just you and I, my friend. Just you and I.
Doesn't even FaceTime his wife.
That's it. I don't. But all of a sudden there's his face on my phone, and he's got this look on him like he's about ready to cry, and he's like, to when he found his gold coin, and all of a sudden I knew. Like he's done it a couple times now. He found some cross sabers one time that he did it and a company letter, cavalry company letter. And he's just like, I'm in the office. My office is so quiet, man. I love it because it's so quiet. But I'm in there all of a sudden going, whoa, whoa. And people are coming running and they're just like, are you okay? I'm like shutting my door. Sorry. So it's great because what he's going through, the excitement and what he's feeling. And the fact that they would reach out to me to share that with me, it was really cool. You know what I mean? And when he found his gold coin, it was the same thing. And it was really funny is about 5 minutes later, my FaceTime comes back up again. We had ended the call and he looks at me. He's just like, and I'm like, what? And he shows me his friend, Zach, and Zach had found one. He had found his first gold coin.
Yeah.
And I was like,
in the same area.
Yeah.
We were like 10 feet from each other.
Crazy.
Which could have been yours. It could have been your second one.
Could have been your
I know. I could have had, if I wouldn't have called them all over for my first one, exactly I would have found two.
They're over
do you guys, when you hunt, do y'all divide up like, okay, I'll take the front yard, do the backyard, or I'll do this? Because a lot of times, my brother and I or other people we hunt with, if you call them over, they start swinging a little too close.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Bottom feeding. We call it bottom
feeding, or you swing on your way back.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go back to the backyard, but I'm gonna swing on my way out to the backyard.
Yes.
Yeah. Absolutely.
I've had that happen to me, and I've been guilty of it all the same time.
Yeah. All of the above.
There's so many stories we have about that same exact thing. One of the ones I was in England the first time I went to England, and this guy we were with, great detector, he ended up finding 2 gold staters. So these old 2,000-year-old Celtic gold coins. He found 2 of them, or he found one, and he was amazing. And we're all coming over and high-fiving him, and it's this big gathering, and everyone's going crazy. And then we decide to break for lunch. So we break for lunch, and at lunch, I'm like, if he doesn't go back over there, I think I'm going to head over there. And then pretty soon 5 or 6 other people said the same thing. So we go, hey, are you heading back over there after lunch? Man, I would. And he's like, nah, I think I'm going to head off this direction. So he did. And so we're like, you mind if we go over there and bottom feed off you a little bit? He's like, no, man, I want everyone to find one, So me and 5 other people were over there and just canvassing that whole area. We knew exactly where he was for like an hour and a half, not finding, finding typical stuff, but not finding no more gold. And here he comes just wandering back over from, quarter mile away, coming in. Hey, did you guys find anything? We're like, no. And then kind of head down. And all of a sudden, Ken, look at him. He's like, you're not going to believe it. I'm like 10 feet from him. He goes, come here. And I go over to, he had a second gold coin.
Oh.
And he goes, look where it was. And it was in a fresh boot print. Right in the center, about an inch down. So all of us had walked right over it. Somebody had actually stepped on it. And he erased the boot print because he didn't want people to get pissed off. Oh, that's my boot, man. What am I doing? But yeah, you never know, man. You never know.
Let me ask a question for you guys about coil technique. Are you guys a scrubber? Do you scrub, or do you prefer to be a certain amount off the ground?
Go ahead, Tony.
if the conditions are right, I want to be right on the ground. If we're in a plowed field that's, not flattened or rolled after they had plowed it, if it's still real rough, I mean, you got to be up, because I'm pretty protective of my coil. But otherwise, I'm down as low as touching the grass tips as I can, and I do that for a couple reasons. Not because of depth per se. I mean, you obviously want to get the most depth out of your coil as you can, but to me, if you're swinging flatter, you're making your detector work the way it's supposed to.
Right.
If you're above and you're doing, a boat,
The arc.
that kind of the arc, you're not swinging it right. You're missing out on a lot of different things. So being close to the ground helps me do what the machine's meant to do.
Yeah.
That's the way that I look at it.
Yeah. I'm a scrubber for the most part. I've worn out covers,
Right. I was going to say, that's why they make those covers.
Yeah.
Those are cheap. Those are cheaper than coils.
Yeah.
Burn through the covers.
Yeah. And I'm the same way. I'll hit the ground a lot. Matter of fact, I constantly looking at my cover to see what condition it's in, because I'll definitely, as much as I can, scrape. Tony and I were digging a field where the grass, it was this long story, this project, but the grass was like knee high, and then the city came in. They were having us help the city do something. The city came in and mowed it all down, but it was left about 4 inches still. And it was like, man, swinging through that, or even when you're swinging through weeds and stuff, it gets really tiring, but because you're really trying to get down to where the stalks are the thickest and stuff. And it's really tough. But so that's the only time I may lift up a little bit, just to make that a little easier, so I don't wear myself out for the day. But if I'm on open ground, I'm scraping the ground definitely, and trying to stay as flat as I can all the way through the swing. I'm very conscious of that.
Yeah.
Me too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, that's the way I swing.
I try to, because when I try to keep almost a grid in my mind. Like I swung this far, so now I need to move to what would be the shape of my coil ahead.
Right.
So I kind of try to keep it gridded off, instead of just being wildly, walking.
You don't know where you've been.
Zigzag. Yeah. We usually zigzag. I think most people zigzag, and they will. As a matter of fact, I've got a program connects to the dais too. Thank you very much. And it tracks.
Getting ready to drop you. One more. I'll drop you again. Itchy finger.
It tracks where that coil goes, and it gives me a printout at the end of the day. It shows me exactly where I want. And you're going to zigzag. That's why somebody can come right in behind you and find something that inches and angles thing. They could be at a different angle and find something. If I find something good, and then I'm going to canvas and I'm going to grid, I'm overlapping. We've been known to put out ropes and just make sure we're just going, to truly canvas an area.
I've never done that, but I try to kind of grid in my head. Like, there's a tree, I'm going to aim for that tree, and then come back and aim for this over here. So I've kind of have markers in my head for that.
Yeah. You know what has helped me, and I think it happened a couple times out in England. When we went out to England, it was you get out early and you got the dew on the grass. If you can get in a field with dew, you know exactly where you've been. I mean, you're not hardly missing anything, because you're like, there's my feet over there. I know that I go about this far out with, I'm going to run right on that same line again. And that's how I use the wet grass to map out my spots.
I use the shovel sometimes.
The shovel.
If I grab the shovel, I can see my line behind me.
Yeah, we saw Nugget Noggin doing that. He does that a lot. So does Preacher now. They'll drag their shovel and stuff.
It's another good technique.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely.
I mean, look at what Preacher and Nugget find.
Right.
Apparently it's a good technique.
Right.
They find a ton of stuff for sure. So one guy was showing me this other program made for that he uses for his GPS locating, and he was showing me this market, and he's like, Ken, can you tell me where? He was showing it to me. He's like, can you tell me where all the good things were found? And so you see these like lines, and then you see a circle of squiggles and squiggles and squiggles, and then a line, and then squiggle, squiggle, to where like he found something good, and then he just hit the hell out of it around there.
Pounded that spot.
Pounded that area, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll actually I know the last time that we're up there north detecting, when I did find a spot, I would actually do the concentric loop around it, and go around and work my way out from that spot that I found. And then when I got, 10 feet out or so from the spot, I go back to the spot and then continue the up and down of what I was doing. So trying to hit two things. And that goes back to my law enforcement training of crime scene investigations, looking for evidence kind of thing. You know, there's different techniques for finding all that stuff. And I was like, let's just do it with a metal detector. It works for, law enforcement and evidence. So let's just do it with the detector as well.
Sure.
Absolutely. I hadn't even really thought about that of just widening out.
Yeah. I just kind of slowly get a little bit wider. I mean, changes up that, back and forth. And some people even say, you go north, south, try going east, west as well, because you'll get different angles again and pick up things that you miss running north, south. So that's how people find things that you just miss. They're coming at a just slightly different angle, a different approach. I mean, all these different things. That's one of the things that
I found from hunting the same areas over and over the years.
Right.
Is that you guys will see, like, a coin is this way. Now it's, 5 years later, it's leveled, it's leveled out. So, or it might've been sideways and now it's enough to give off a signal. So,
yeah. Steve, what's on that Mudflap bucket list? Like, what is, you said a gold coin, you already mentioned gold coin.
Yeah.
But you're in Colorado, what we find here and stuff. Like, do you have you've got a seeded already, you're not going to find a large scent. So what it's on your wish list that you really hope you could find?
I would, typical gold nugget would be high on the list. And I haven't really heard or seen anybody. Is that typical around here?
Finding gold nuggets?
An actual nugget, like, a miner dropped it outside of the saloon
with the machine.
Yeah. It's not typical, but I do know people that are from our club that go up and hit the tailing piles with permission, and they find nuggets. They find nuggets up there. In the rivers and the creeks, you're not finding too many nuggets. I guess, certain placer claims way up high, maybe, but mainly it's real fine gold in Colorado. All the gold, you can still find a lot of gold. When I started out, when I first moved to Colorado, started prospecting, you can find gold, but it's all fine gold, real small mesh gold. But that's what got me into detecting. I was gold prospecting and I wanted to get a detector thinking I could find nuggets. Yeah. And then I got a detector and started looking for coins and relics. But I know friends of mine do hunt the tailing piles up in the mountains and do still find nuggets. Matter of fact, who's it? John in our club that's got a necklace that's just made out of all the nuggets he's found. He kind of turned it into a necklace. It's pretty cool. But not common. Definitely not common.
For me, trying to find maybe a few more of the old West kind of relics would be high on my list. Like, like a gun or maybe an old rifle out in the field or that kind of stuff. That kind of relic, not just another. Well, this was a saddle, shoehorn or
saddle buckle.
Yeah.
I've seen people find, which would just be amazing to me. Detective badges, like the Pinkerton Detective Agency out here, because they were out here, or Indian agent badge or something like that. That'd be awesome. Wouldn't that be amazing? That'd be so cool. So cool. Any place you want to detect? Like if you thought about, man, I wish I could get to X to detect. That would be cool.
I really want to hunt Pine, Colorado for some reason. I don't know if you guys have ever been out to that older area of Pine, but there's so many old buildings there. And I drive around and look, and I think I should ask permission, but I'm horrible at this. But something about Pine, Colorado really attracts me.
Well, yeah.
We'll do it. Let's do it.
Let's do it. And that'll be our next.
Seriously.
Well, it's not actually called Pine, right?
Yeah, it's that area. Well, I go out.
Steve.
Yeah, the area that I'm talking about.
We're on a national podcast.
I go to the shooting range out there and I drive past.
Oh, do you? Yeah. Yeah.
Hey, real quick, I wanted to show you. You're talking about finding badges. Ripcode Adventures. He just posted this not too long ago. Let's see. Minneapolis Police number 283.
Oh, wow. Check that out. That's really cool.
And that's all cleaned up. He found it. He dated it back to 1900 to 1915. And he's reached out to the police museum and the police department, haven't received a response. But he's looking for other people to help him kind of research it and get it, either figured out who was to whatever the number was, and That would be so cool to find an old badge. Oh my gosh!
We can't all find
an old West badge,
like like
oh
Matt
my
Dillon
God.
kind of thing.
Right.
Tony, we all can't find Rough Riders badges. Theodore Roosevelt. See that badge you found, Steve? With the it was a Rough Riders reunion, 1904 badge, Teddy Roosevelt. On the badge, and we found it in Colorado. Yeah, in the middle of a field.
Didn't he come and do a lot of stuff around here though?
Yeah, definitely. He did come this way, but they gave those badges out to everyone that was a Rough Rider that attended. They weren't given out to spectators. They had this big reunion in 1904 in San Antonio, Texas, and everyone was given that badge. And this was nearby the stagecoach stop, but quite a ways off in the middle of some big field. And he just pulled.
That's the only thing we found on the field, though, too.
Yeah, sitting there.
Fell off a wagon or a horse or something right there.
Yeah. So did one of the Rough Riders live out this way and come back on the stagecoach to come home and wandered out in that field or was riding his horse back to his ranch or something? Who knows, man?
I love that you guys do exactly what I do of like creating these stories. Like
you have
this guy was probably getting off his horse when he dropped it. And
it's amazing. It's amazing when you're out in the middle of nowhere and you hold up a piece of history. And number one, hopefully what the heck it is, because that's a whole nother adventure trying to figure out what the heck you're holding.
Yeah.
And then number two, and Ken and I say it all the time, how did this end up right here?
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden you're like, whoa, well, it had to have been this. He was getting off his horse right here. And it fell out of his bag.
Coming out of the saloon, putting change in his pocket, missed his pocket.
That's it.
Right. Absolutely.
Somebody whistled at him. He looked up. He missed his pocket.
Yeah.
The lady of the night was whistling at him. Yeah.
Because he had his hair
He was digging in his pocket.
He had his hair dye.
He only had 3 pennies and he was like, I'm not getting any tonight. And he pitched it over his shoulder.
Steve, man, you've been a great guest. We've really enjoyed having you on. That was a lot of fun.
I love stories, man.
Yeah, absolutely. We should definitely have Steve back on because it seems like we can just continue talking about stuff.
Well, we're gonna talk about that spot that we're gonna go metal tech. That's not called Pine, Colorado.
That's not called Pine. We should definitely do that. Now we'll start the cascade into sleepless nights of research for me now. Look it up because I'm not familiar with that place. I know you are, Tony, but I'm not.
Yeah.
Well, before you go, I've had this idea and I really have thought about doing it, of just printing up a ton of like actual little flyers that say, I want to hunt your yard. I'll share anything. And completely canvas a neighborhood. Just canvas it, like put it on every door and let people call me if they want to do it. I've thought about this for a couple of years now. Sure. Instead of going knock, 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 just put it on every door. Call me if you want to find out what's in your yard.
Tony's got a drone. He can just like mass drop.
Oh yeah.
Just litter the neighborhood.
We'll make it look like $100 bills, but written on there says, I want to metal detected. Yeah.
This could be you.
Wait, what? This could, there could be money in your yard. Let me detect it for you.
There's so many ways we can approach detecting an area like that. So let's all three get together and we can chat about that. So Steve, anything last from you before we put you down back in the green room and we say our goodbyes and we'll talk to you off air if you're okay.
Well, if anybody wants to check out, because what I do for a living now is I'm a stand-up comic. I tour all over the world, and I've got my YouTube channel if people want to go watch comedy clips, stand-up comedy clips, and I also have the metal detecting part of that YouTube channel too. So they want to check that out.
Yeah, Tony's throwing the links down in the chat right now, and you also can see them down in the description of the video you're watching or the podcast you're listening to right now. So make sure you go over there and check it out and drop him a line. Say, hey, I saw you on Relics Radio. That'd be kind of cool. Hey, man, there's somebody that came over from Relics Radio. Go check him out. He's got stuff going on Facebook and TikTok, or maybe not TikTok. Are you on X? You're on X?
I've got TikTok. I'm addicted to social media, so I'm pretty much on everything. But one real plug that I should do is I have a new comedy album that came out that is on Spotify right now. So
is that right?
Yeah. So if anybody has Spotify, you can check out a new comedy album.
Okay.
That's awesome, man. You know how when I was younger, comedy albums were everything to me.
Yes.
They were everything to me.
Me
Bill
too.
Cosby,
Almost.
Steve Martin, Richard Pryor.
Yeah.
All of them just were George Carlin. They were just Cheech and Chong. They were just the best.
Yeah.
I used to go over to a friend's house. His dad had this massive stereo, these giant clip speakers, and we would just listen to comedy albums of all things. And it was
I think that's sort of what got me into comedy, or was younger, was my mom and dad were into the 1960s party albums that you people used to, you put on and, oh my God, I can't believe he said that.
Yeah. Oh, how risque.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right.
Well, cool. Steve, thanks, man. Pleasure having you on here. Hang out down below. We'll get with you as soon as we say our goodbyes, and then we'll finish the show off there with you. Thanks, man.
Later.
Okay. Wow. So, yeah, we got to get together with Steve.
Oh, yeah. I know, right? I mean, just to talk about, we had mentioned it way earlier. His the passion, the mindset, the love, the history. I mean, all of it, all the way around. Yep. Yeah, we're going to be out with him. So if you guys are watching, you're going to be seeing some Mudflap on 5280 or Adventures in Dirt. I can guarantee that one. We're going to get out with him, hit some places, have him overcome the door knocking permission thing. I mean, if you we'll send him up. He's better looking than us two. I tell you that.
Yeah. So, we could set him up there and just break the ice for sure. We'll hide in the car.
Right.
We'll get him there.
No. Yeah, absolutely.
That'd be fun. We definitely should get together with him, and
we will.
Come
I know we will
for sure. Yeah,
absolutely.
What do you got going on, man?
Yeah, I just want to mention Rush to the Rockies, May 31st to June 1st. That's coming up. Stay tuned for on our
30th,
social media.
Isn't it? 30th through the 1st, right? And we doing 30, 31, and 1st.
You're right.
We are doing that Friday, right? We're doing kind of a meet and greet and stuff.
We are
giving away $10 million on that Friday night.
$1 million. Yeah, right. Yeah, right. So yeah, I had it wrong on our list over here. That's my fault. May 30th, which is Friday, through June 1st, which is Sunday. But check into our Relics Radio social media. We'll post more information about that. And seriously, if you guys want to come out for a good time, come out to Colorado. It's beautiful in June. Not too hot yet, so that's good. And come out and visit with us and all that kind of good stuff. Do some hunting with us, and we'll have a good time. But yeah, Rush to the Rockies.
Yeah,
2025 rendezvous.
Dun, dun, dun. A lot goes into it, man. A lot goes into planning of it. We have a lot of people involved, so we try our best to put on the best hunt we can put on for you. I know that we're thinking of everything. It comes up in every meeting. Believe me, it's just like the tiniest detail. The tiniest detail. We'll talk a half an hour about whether Tony's logo should have dirt on his shirt or not. The little guy logo animated guy should have dirt on his shirt or not. That was a half an hour conversation.
Right, everybody vote.
Yeah, let's argue about it. Somebody else end up leaving the meeting because they wanted dirt on the shirt and everyone else didn't want dirt on the shirt. So that's how meticulous we are going into trying to plan this event. So well, you're going to hear us talk about it, so get used to it.
Yep, absolutely. And I want to mention real quick before I duck off here, we will be on Wednesdays, so get used to seeing us on Wednesdays. Sound like some good positive response there in the chat when we came on. So,
tell a friend.
Get used to it on Wednesdays.
You know, people, fellow friends of yours that listen to Relics Radio, help spread the word that we're switching over to Wednesdays. We're going to hit social media with it, but even as much on social media that we do, we still have people like when we decide to take a break or something, we'll let everyone know, hey, we're not having a show tonight. Sometimes people will miss that still. So tell a friend, let everyone know, help us spread the word. We're going to switch to Wednesdays. You'll start seeing us advertise that on our social media too. Should be good. Should be a good time for sure. Yep. I think it works for both Tony and I's schedule a little bit better. So it'll work. Yep. Cool. Awesome. Thanks, man. Yeah. Good show tonight.
Yeah. Hey, thanks for a good show.
Okay. See you guys.
Appreciate you.
Yep.
Thank you so much for listening to Relics Radio. We will see you back here next week for another exciting guest. Until then, get out and dig it all.